In brightest day,
in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerduts Newstown, and I want to talk a little bit about the new Green Lanterns, the two new Green Lanterns that were most recently put into the comics. Now, these two lanterns have kind of gotten a lot of hate, and I want to discuss in this video why and what I think it is and what it actually is. So first, let's take a look at the previous and still active lanterns that we've seen. The first Green Lantern was Alan Scott. He was the only one for the Golden Age and was created in 1940. He has been married a couple times, has 2 kids, Jade and Obsidian. He has more recently been retconned out as a gay man, but is still fighting alongside his friends, which seems to be that he's heading to Justice Incarnate. Of course, we won't be sure until the end of the Infinite Frontier mini. Now, next was Hal Jordan. He was the first Silver Age Lantern introduced in 1959 and is a member of the Green Lantern Corps. Of course, there are thousands, but he's a former test pilot and helped found the Justice League. Then when Guy Gardner and John Stewart were introduced initially, they were taking over that mantle for Hal, right? Because at the time, there was only one ring. Hal was retiring. Guy was given the ring and to have it then taken back by Hal. Then John took over, and eventually Guy was given another ring, which eventually was actually yellow and Sinestro. Like, there's just so much. But it was no different back then. Then Hal was given a new one, and then all three eventually worked at the same time, but that's putting it very, very simply. So Kyle Rayner was introduced in 1994 and eventually become the sole Green Lantern, taking over again for Hal while he was Parallax. Guy's yellow ring was destroyed, and he became part alien and became Moyer. John became Darkstar, and eventually Hal comes back, and the Corp comes back, and now we have 4 Green Lanterns assigned to Earth, and yeah, there's not all on Earth at the same time, but still. So then eventually 2014 comes, and Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz were introduced. My personal favorite, I love me some Jessica. So now we have 6. People generally accepted these lanterns, eventually at least, but did so with kind of very little fuss, and especially not that much heated hatred at their announcement. So Simon's introduction wasn't the best, but still, it was kind of made bad by Jeff, just because he didn't have the time to flesh out the characters. Basically, after the Guardians went mad, he was more of a plot character, simply used like to fill a void, at least, whereas Jeff Johns, he had more time to flesh out Jessica Cruz in the pages of Justice League. Simon really wasn't fully fleshed out until Rebirth Green Lanterns, right? So, 6. Let's fast forward 7 years. Far Sector starts. Granted, people didn't care for it at first, but no one knew really at that point, because it was Young Animal imprint, if it was canon or not. It felt very self-contained. It was a limited series. Like I said, it was on Young Animal, and that didn't help at all. So Far Sector had a rough start. It was clearly tainted how people looked at that book, but it was good, and it's actually improved. You actually don't need to read any previous Green Lantern stories going into this. Instead of Joe Mullein having a huge origin stories, you basically learn little bits by little bits. There are very real world parallels in this alien city of Enduring, yet nuanced enough to not make you turn away. We've talked plenty of times about societal issues needing nuance and not preaching. So Joe Mullein is slowly fleshed out, right? and now being introduced into the bigger DC universe. Okay, Jo's not a bad character, and her situation is easily explained. She's not perfect. She is trying to solve a tough situation and enduring where it's the first murder in 500 years. Yeah, and she's on the clock. Not to mention the artwork by Jamal Campbell. Oh, phenomenal. Beautiful. So, everything's accepted. And then 5G was announced. And it was stated by Bleeding Cool, mind you, that she was taking over. And all hell broke loose. And people now hate her and judge her as a Mary Sue and all that. No one has actually looked back at the book to see if she was a good character, if her character improved, if it gave development, or to give her character a simple chance. Now, her appearance in Future State, and this is on you, Joshua Williams, did not help in the Justice League title. They described her as the best detective in the world. A fact that I love about Jeffrey Thorne's new run, which was phenomenal, by the way, because he hates it. That, you know, tell, not show. Yeah, that's tell, not show. But if that detail were removed, she was written really good in the story. And it seems so far off for Williamson to do something like that. He's such a good writer. So I'm wondering kind of if, you know, that she's the best was added by editorial. So now let's add to the conversation Teen Lantern, and her name is Kelly Quintella, which was introduced, giving it a bad taste in people's mouths in Young Justice by Bendis. So, for some reason, the solicitations and other details claim she hacked the Green Lantern power battery. So people, of course, assume she's Riri 3.0, right? So, she's more of a tween than a teen. And we even see in Jeffrey Thorne's Green Lantern #1 make that joke, right? And she's struggling to figure out the powers, doesn't know much about it, which says if she did hack it, first off, it was by accident. Otherwise, how can you hack something and not know how to use it? Now, later in Young Justice #8, we get to see her actual origins. And it's similar to Hal in that she finds an alien Green Lantern who gave her the gauntlet. A gauntlet that's already tapped into. It's already tapped into the Green Lantern power. So she didn't hack anything. The gauntlet did it already. It does seem like in this situation, Kelly did declare that she hacked the Green Lantern ring, right, in the pages, but it seemed it was done as an exaggeration to impress others. And sometimes people can't take that in a story. I'm not sure why, but even so. So she has reworked the gauntlet so she can wield it better. But other than that, she's been kind of flailing around the rest of the series trying to figure it out. She has no clue literally what to do. We see that to this day. And at the end of Young Justice, John Stewart actually shows up, taking her to meet the Guardians. And in a backup story in Future State Green Lantern, we actually meet the Guardians and they have no clue about the gauntlet. And they worry it has too much power, like Krona, who is the fallen Rogue Guardian, right? Or Prototype, Hal used it during DCU and eventually absorbed its powers. So that's now long gone. So they send her off to Mogo, which is the sentient planet Lantern. And they tapped into Limbo and eventually gets out. And now we see her at Oa and Green Lantern. And it's hazy. If the events of Future State Green Lantern happen the way it did or not, because it's clear the Guardians are still testing her. Those seem like stories more Elseworld contained, right? So the fact that there's a mystery going on, the fact that there's no clue where the gauntlet come from or how it works. Again, if she hacked it, you'd think she'd proudly tell everyone. So again, she didn't hack it. I just want to reiterate that a few times because that's kind of what everybody assumes and says. But all this says that this girl is not the genius or Mary Sue everyone really initially assumed she'd be. So despite her age, Kelly clearly shows that she is one tough cookie, and she may act like a brat, kind of what I like about her, but when the chips are down, she's as brave as the rest of the Lanterns, and that's kind of unique for a Lantern initially, right? So, What are people's problem here? Why have they accepted the other lanterns before? Even the two most recent, Simon and Jessica. And Jessica, look at her. She's become a fan favorite in a really short time. Because probably she's the best ever. I'm just saying. People keep pushing this false narrative about Kelly hacking things and have not even bothered to look and see if it's true. Just take the word of a YouTuber and go on about your day, right? They just accept it and then they continue to bash her. So Jo has her own issues. She's not perfect. She's not super genius. She's not a strong character at all, honestly. Future State Justice League, the greatest detective in the multiverse aside, she hasn't been shilled all that much in the media either. Somewhat, but not too bad. These characters have been and have just as much potential as Simon and Jessica. And honestly, think about it this way. If nothing else, Simon has been treated more of a Gary Sue than these two lanterns have been. And Green Lanterns, he's done feats that not even Hal has done. And it seems it's just like, oh, he's Simon, let's let him do this. Like, overcome Red Lantern, Red Blood without the need of a blue lantern ring. No one should be able to do that, but he did. And people still continue to accept him. The main problem is people complaining without reading, I think. Or at least without reading beyond the first issue or two issues of a book, and see that not all of what they thought is actually true, or see them talked about on a show site or assume they're terrible characters, right? So those that continue to push false facts that are long debunked just makes themselves look silly a little bit. But are there too many lanterns on Earth? Oh, God, yes. That's the big problem here. We're now up to 8, 9 if you count Alan, and 10 if you count Ty from Legacy, but I don't think that's actually canon, even though it was pretty decent. I actually reviewed that book, Legacy. So let's talk about each one of the lanterns individually just for a second. What each one has brought to the table and what makes them different. Alan is an elder statesman, the first, and his ring is a little more magical based. Hal is the first in the core on Earth, and he's shown he is strong-willed and has strong determination. Guy is brash. He is the kind of guy you drink a beer with, but you sometimes might want to punch him in the face. Yet you know he means well, right? John is a military man and an architect who both knows what he's doing and yet constantly questions himself, but usually not in an annoying way. He's been offered or given leadership many times, yet he doesn't feel like he deserves it. Most of the times he proves he does. His greatest failure, which was losing a planet due to his own ego, still to this day weighs heavy on him and causes him self-doubt. Kyle is one who was kind of a torchbearer, right? He carried the ring when no one else could. He was and has proven so many times that he is worthy of a lantern, regardless of color or anyone else. Simon, well, I mean, he's Simon. I mean, they're still working on him. It seems Simon's honestly needs some fleshing out. So Jessica, she's overcame, and I could make a whole video about this. I won't gush too much, but she's overcame survivor's guilt after having herself literally stockpiled in her apartment. A woman who let fear dominate her was chosen. She was made for this job. Her personality goes toe-to-toe, I guess is the best way to say it, with fear and anxiety every day and still dominate. Whereas most Green Lanterns are simply fearless, and she deals with it daily. A Yellow Lantern really doesn't stand a chance against her, right? And now the two new ones. Kelly, it's the mystery of her gauntlet and her young age, but still having major stones to go in a fight and defend everyone, despite her young age. That shows that she has the will of a lantern to conquer fear like the best of them. Jo, she's former military. She's a former cop, like John. Or, well, he's former military, who has been tasked to protect and eventually solve a mystery on a strange alien planet. She's been able to adapt well and do the best she can, despite being the sole human there. She knows the question, when to question authority, just like Hal. just like Guy. And will do that and seek justice for whatever has been wrong. Aside from Simon, everybody else has really brought something different to the table. Honestly, at this point, I think it's misinformation. And I think it's only fair to give these two a chance to show they're just as worthy as the other 6. Maybe I'm wrong. Either way, let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.